I have $40,000 in credit card debt. 40. So let's talk about it. First of all, that is a statement that I thought I would be taking to my grave. I never thought I would tell another soul. And in fact, until today, I have never told another soul about my struggles with credit card debt because this is not the beginning. If we rewind all the way back to about 19 or 20-year-old Lana, that is when my journey with credit card debt began. I was 19 years old and I was dating a man who was 31, and he did not support me or help me financially in any way, and I was trying to live his lifestyle off my minimum wage job, and I was living outside my means, to be quite.
I'm just gonna pause right there. So right away, I mean, the amount of debt, about like 40K in debt, it's quite a lot. I know, especially for a young age. I know she didn't rack that up in her early 20s, but now at her age, she still has that and it's grown. So, I mean, there's still more parts to the video, but it's just like, you can see this in like a lot. I know this is like trending a lot, that credit card debt or just like personal debt has been like racking up a ton, especially in younger ages and just the youth. I think a big thing is like, a lot of people just want to maintain a certain lifestyle. Some people maybe have the proper budgeting, some people don't. Maybe again, they're the usual, as you hear like they're spending all their money on Starbucks, they're updating their iPhones every 1 or 2 years. They're trying to buy like the newest things all the time, trying to always like make experiences, either like FOMO, as in like they don't want to miss anything, so they're going to all the events with all their friends, or going to the club, let's say. I don't know. It's like I get it. It's like you don't want to miss out on anything. You want to hang out with your friends. You don't want to just be at home all the time, or maybe you do, and maybe you still spend a ton because you're buying a RTX 4090 or something along those lines. But yeah, there's just a lot of things where people are. I mean, as like I guess society progresses in a good way, we keep having more things to buy, but it also means more bad opportunities sometimes for people to make bad financial decisions. And it's not always bad. And I mean, let's continue with this video. So let's just see what her situation is.
Frank, I got myself into credit card debt. I stayed in credit card debt until I was about 21, at which point I was able to pay it off over the course of just like really cutting back and being very diligent about making as many extra payments as I could to my debt. And then
And I want to just pause there actually. So like one of the things we actually hear, I think it happens pretty often, is like a lot of people get into credit card debt. Maybe they'll pay it off, which is really good. They get out of that hole of course, just debt. But then I think it's like you fall into those exact same like lines of like, oh, I'm gonna just use it a little bit more. You end up racking another couple thousand and not 10,000s. And it's just like, it's definitely something I see why people fall into, is just like, you think like, oh, I'll just spend it, I'll pay it back, I'll pay it back, I'll pay it back. And just like, that's what you keep telling yourself. Maybe you make little small payments, but sometimes you're barely even maybe paying off the interest. Or who knows, maybe you have 0% APR, which is really nice, but even a lot of those cards only last about like 18 to 24 months. So it's something to definitely consider. And yeah, it's just like, I think if you can't maintain a credit card, I would definitely recommend just getting rid of it altogether. So pay it off, get rid of it, don't use it anymore. Or even while you're paying it off, you could simply just not carry the card with you, leave it at home. Only use it for emergencies when you really need to use it. But some people just don't have the discipline to use it properly. I mean, correctly, I get it sometimes. Maybe you fall a little behind, maybe you bought a little bit too much, or you got to pay for gas or bills. But for the most part, they do say, and I do recommend this as well too, it's just like pay off your debt every single month as soon as it gets to the payment deadline. Pay it off, have no interest, and whatever, you could utilize it, pay it off in terms of like using the majority of your, let's just say, your income. At least you have no credit card debt. But it is obviously, if you want to go next level, you could save up too. But let's see how her situation continues.
I got out of it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most freeing thing. I'm never doing that again. And then I did. And then I paid that debt off. And you know what? I repeated the cycle again. I'm in my third cycle of credit card.
So yeah, we see her third cycle of credit card debt, which I fully understand. I think again, people get into that mindset, it's like, I'll pay it off, it's done, I'm completely in the clear. And then they fall into the exact same steps of doing it. So it's like, I think for yourself, it's like you have to like realize like, okay, I keep doing this, I'm not solving it yet, I can't seem to resolve it. Maybe the third time's a charm, as we always hear, but maybe not. So I'd probably recommend for her just to like get rid of the credit card entirely, as in just like cut it up, don't use it. I know it's gonna go against your credit score one day when it like cancels on its own for not being used at all or utilized, but it's probably way better off financially to do that. It'll affect your credit score a tiny bit down the line that you're not using it, but I think it's a way better decision than just going into more and more debt and obviously having a high credit utilization especially for that card, which she might possibly have more cards. But let's continue a little bit more on this story before we move on to the next video.
Debt, and at this point my threshold has just gotten so big. Your threshold for debt increases with time, right? It's just like your threshold for anything else that creates stress in your life. Over time your body has to adapt to the current conditions, so your threshold for what it can hold expands. So right now the number 40 probably feels staggering to some of you.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm just gonna end it right here, but it's like at 40K debt, yeah, maybe she started at 10K, moved, paid that off, got into debt again, 20K, and then again, maybe she, again, cleaned it up that second time, but she probably got to like 10K. It's like, oh, I'm only half of my previous debt, right? It's completely fine, I'll pay it off. I've done it before. She gets to 20K, it's like, I've done this before, I can pay it off again. 30K is just like, it's already above what her last debt was, and again, now she's at 40K, and it's like, this is probably gonna keep cycling. Who knows her full situation? There's lots of this video, you can like break it down, keep watching it, see how she figures out. But I think when you keep falling for that same cycle, I'm not necessarily say the first time, the second time, or the third time this happens to you, let's just say maybe you should cut up your card. But it's just like, if you keep noticing the patterns with yourself and you don't seem to like improve on it, like in terms of not building up that crazy debt each time, it might be time to just cut it up. I know you won't have a credit card anymore. You have to just, maybe you can just use your debit card, which I know doesn't have like the same like securities as like if someone were to steal it. But I guess like one option for her, like let's say if she can rack up 40K of credit card debt, maybe assuming one card, I know you can talk to like, let's say your bank, and you can ask them for like a low credit, what's it called? Like credit balance in terms of on that card. So if she's allowed to do 40, she should pay it off and then talk to the bank and tell her like, hey, max me out at like 5K, let's just say. I know 5K is still a lot of debt if she were to do it again, but 5K is a lot less than 40K, because in a sense, it's kind of like that space that the bank keeps giving her, let's say her credit that she's able to utilize each time. Maybe it obviously keeps increasing. They let her keep obviously racking up more debt, but I think 5K would be a lot more doable, a lot more stomachable, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like something better to do.
At the end of 2025, me a year from now, I do not want to have as much debt as I do right now. Ideally, I would love to have it all paid off by the end of next year, but once I tell you the amount, I don't know.
And I know I'm going to pause throughout these videos, but I just want to just like show, it's like, I like that she has a mindset of like, okay, I'm going to pay it off this year, maybe next year. I think it's not always about just like, okay, it's like, I'm just going to pay it off and that's it. But it's like planning it out as well too. So it's like, as you say, like, it's like the first step is like realizing you have a problem, being her debt. Second step is kind of like planning it out. And then third step is kind of like taking the steps to actually get rid of it. So let's just see what she says.
Know if that is realistic. So I have $24,446.36 in credit card debt. I'm getting like an ice pick headache right now because just thinking about it is so.
Yeah, I mean, even this amount of debt for her age, she seems young, 24,000, almost 25,000, let's just say. It's quite a lot, and it's like to pay something that like that off, even if you're working a decent job, it's going to take time. And it's like sometimes you might even do your budgeting, right? Let's just say she makes, let's say 50K take home, right? And she's like, half of this money I'm going to use for my whatever personal, just like whatever she might need to buy on a month to month basis, or food, miscellaneous, car payments, or whatever she might have. That other 25K in the whole year, she uses it for paying off her debt. Obviously, there's obviously some interest rate. We don't know what exactly her APR is as well too, but that sometimes doesn't always go to plan. You might think like, okay, 25K for me, 25K for debt this year, I should have it for the most part paid off. Let's just assume no interest. Let's say she had 0 APR, which you can typically get on like a newer card, or you could do like a loan transfer from one card to another. But it's still going to be, it's not always going to be the existing, but I think it's definitely the right direction, being like, I can pay it off, I can make these plans, and hopefully it works out.
So stressful. That's not even considering my student loan debt. That is just my consumer debt. That is debt that I have accumulated from poor spending habits, impulse spending, from giving into mimetic desire, giving into FOMO, giving into the trends and everything that everybody else has that I want. And I'm 30 years old and I have no money.
Yeah, so it's just like at any age, it's like, I think when you get to like the age of 30, or any of like, you know, those big checkpoints, I hit 20, I hit 30, I hit 40, 50, 60, you really, I think you feel like you're going to reflect a lot of those ages. Maybe you're at one of those ages, or one of those checkpoints in your life right now. I think she's probably reflecting like, hey, I'm 30. It's like I have 25K in debt, I have school debt, and I have like no money saved up, let's just say. And it's just like, it really makes you rethink your life a bit. It's a good thing. I mean, I know it's gonna make you stress a bit. Like she said, she gets like the ice pick headaches thinking about her debt, but it's not something you completely just like forget about and just like hope you just deal with these next couple of years, because sometimes you don't, and you really need to make a plan unless it's like, sure, you can start paying it off slowly, or do you get a new job? Do you get something where you can make money on the side? A lot of options, of course, too, but it's just like, you really gotta plan this out, because also that debt and the interest is just gonna be a ton. And it's like, more towards the end of this video, if you stay, it's like I'll show like some calculators of paying off like even this simple debt of 25K. You could even do 10K or whatever. We could look up like the average amount of debt for like, let's say a 20 or 30-year-old, and it's just like those high interest rates, you start realizing. I don't think people always realize like how much money that, let's say that 20-30% average credit card interest rate is, like how much of your monthly payment is actually going to interest, and how much is actually going towards like the debt, which is the principal. But let's just see a little bit more of this.
Money. I'm broke. And I shouldn't be. Make just under $73,000 a year. And that's a good salary. So this is just me putting it out into the universe that I have all of this debt. I've used TikTok a lot this year to hold myself accountable to the goals that I have for my health and my wellness.
And I think that's a good way too. I think it helps some people too, like besides just like planning it out, also just putting it out there publicly. I know most of us would be embarrassed to have any type of debt. It's just like, yeah, you feel like you're behind, or you compare yourself to your other friends. Maybe you hear your other friend has saved up some money, or they're investing, or they bought a house at 30 or around that age, which she's getting to. And it just really makes you like think over your life and your finances, and it really makes you question like, damn, I could have done better like financial decisions. I could have bought that instead. I shouldn't have spent so much on, let's say, coffee, or I shouldn't have got that really nice car in my early 20s out of college. Could have spent that money investing or paying off debt or saving it up, and just, you know, even if it was just on the side, even in your bank account, which I know doesn't make much back in terms of like investing, but it's better than having 25K debt. But again, it's just, this is like a great example for many people, regardless of the age. I think she kind of hits that whole like 20 to 30 age mark where you've racked up some school debt, you've racked up some personal debt. And it really makes you like think like, damn, I can do better. I got to make changes. And again, it's a good thing that, again, going back to the beginning point, is just like she's made it public. I think she's trying to keep herself accountable, which is like a great thing to do as well too.
It's payday, and we're paying off a credit card. If you don't know, my husband and I are currently in $47,849.39 of credit card debt. You guys know how much I hate our Apple credit card, and its days have come to an end.
And that one right there, it's just like Apple Card is the devil. I mean, any card is the devil, I guess, in terms of if you can't utilize it correctly. Again, you can also use them positively, where it benefits you, and you can use it to like move forward in your life and pay off, let's say, certain things real quickly. Or not pay off, but let's say you use credit while we get some cash to pay it back off with whatever our job. But it's like, regardless of her age, it's like 48K between her and her husband. That's about 24K each of them. That's really similar to the last video where she had 25K debt, personal debt. Now we're not including any other debt. And again, it's like, if you see, and it's like, even she's like smiling in this video where it's like she realizes that these cards are the devil for her. And it's like, if you realize that, it's a good thing. It's a starting point to begin with, to be honest. Like, she realized that you have a spending issue or a credit card issue. But at this point now, it's just like moving forward. It's like, okay, how do I start paying it off? And honestly, 48K, even if you're making pretty decent money, let's say even if you're spending, let's just say even 48K, if you're spending 2K a month, and assuming there's no, let's say, interest rate for your credit card, that's still going to take about 2 years nonstop of being very consistent, which is pretty tough. And it's like, sometimes some people would even say, maybe, let's say if you do have 2K that you would want to put per month, which would pay off in 2 years, maybe do 1,500, so you leave yourself about like 500 buffer for other spending habits, and not necessarily bad spending habits, which you already begin with, but more like, you know, miscellaneous, or things pop up, your car breaks down, or you need to buy something, your fridge breaks down, which sucks a lot if you're wondering. But it's something to consider. It's just like, yeah, we're gonna see a lot of examples. And again, I don't mean to bash on any of these people. Again, many people deal with this. The credit card debt in the US is at an astronomical number, or personal debt. But let's continue.
Thank goodness. Good riddance, literal. We started paying off the Apple credit card at the beginning of February, and that balance was $4,162.47, and we are now in the middle of April, and we're paying it off. All right, so let's get into the budget for the week. He got paid today on the 18th, and then I also earned some extra money.
Yeah, I want to just pause it here. It's good to use calculators like this, and there's a lot of like simple, just use like spreadsheets online on Google. You don't have to use anything paid. You don't have to use Excel. Just use any type of spreadsheet and start like planning out your finances a bit, like seeing where your money's going. Maybe paying attention even to where your money is going, if it's food or rent or whatever it might be. You might even notice some patterns. You might be able to cut some costs, as you always like hear. It's just like paying attention to your costs. Like I'd even say this, like I'd recommend this honestly from a lot of people, and I'm not allowed to give financial advice, but I'd probably recommend don't spend the month of actually like trying to cut costs, which I mean that already sounds like bad advice, but maybe for like a month, just pay attention to everything that your money's going to. Don't try to cut costs just for a whole month. Keep to the same old routine that you're doing and just see where your money's going. You'll see a lot of it, a good portion of it goes to food, which you don't really realize. I myself do the same. I kind of just like eat out occasionally or maybe many times of the month, but it is where a lot of my money goes. And it's like once you start like tracking, like even looking at like, let's say your last month's statement. So maybe you don't have to do the whole month of continuing your bad financial decisions on your credit card, but look at your last months of spending and just you start seeing patterns. You know, you could see where you could cut costs. Maybe those Starbucks runs. And then again, you're always gonna hear like, oh, cut the Starbucks, cut this, cut that entirely 100%. Maybe cut back in steps, do it gradually. And I kind of see it like as like a muscle in terms of like you can't just go all out and crazy and just kill everything. It's not always easy for some people. Maybe you gotta do it a little more slowly. And again, everyone has a different just like background or how they deal with their finances. But if I'm doing, let's say I'm doing daily Starbucks 7 times a week, let's just say $5 per cup, that's $35 a week that I'm spending. And it's quite a lot. I mean, that's about like $140 a month that I'm spending on Starbucks. Maybe instead of 7 times, I can cut that down to 5 days a week and 3 days, 2 days, and then maybe just once a week. So you just kind of like reward yourself for whatever that is on whatever the weekends or whatever you made it through another hard week of work or school or whatever you're going through, and just yeah, try to just like reduce it. You don't have to go like all out, just cold turkey. And so maybe like slow it down a bit as you do it.
Money from walking my favorite dogs that live here in the neighborhood. And then this unexpected is actually money that we had left over from our Vegas trip. So obviously that is going straight to the credit cards. And this is what.
And I think that's like a decent example how she mentioned about like the leftover Vegas money that she had. And it's like, okay, some people would be, or a lot of finance people would be like, okay, kill the whole trip, save all the money, whatever. Instead of, let's say she only had a couple hundred there, she could save a couple thousand on the whole trip that she would have going to spend regardless. And it's like, maybe sometimes you don't want to. Again, I'm not trying to give financial advice on what you should do, but it's like, maybe pull back a bit. Like, in since she didn't spend all her whole budget, and she's not going to be like, oh, I have 400 left over from my Vegas trip. I'm just going to go spend that and go buy, I don't know, an Apple Watch. Instead, she's like, oh, I'm going to use this towards debt, which is a really smart like way to deal with it. And it's like, she didn't say no to the Vegas trip. I feel like I'm a bad person or giving bad financial advice. I guess I'm trying to see it on both ends. I don't know if this helps you guys, but again, I could be like the mean guy and just tell you no debt, zero debt, don't go out, stay home, drink water and eat ice for your dinner. But I'm just gonna just try to be like in the middle ground, try to give you like options, and I'm gonna tell you what's the best decision. Everyone's gonna give you a different opinion on this, but it's definitely things to consider your options sometimes as well too.
What the rest of the budget looks like. My first payment on this new 0% balance transfer card.
Yeah, and I just want to end the video here, but it seems like she transferred some of her debt to a zero credit transfer card. A lot of those cards, you can look them up. Just Google 0% like APR new credit card transfer, and just like somewhere like 12 months. I think I've seen as high as like 18 or 24 months, which gives you about a year and a half to 2 years to pay off that debt, hopefully, instead of accruing more debt or obviously interest during those, let's say, 18 months. You maybe take the full time, even if let's say you're saving $200 a month, which might seem like it's just $200 a month. I mean, over let's say 2 years, that's about like $4,800. So it's a lot better off to just maybe do that loan transfer. And I know some do charge you like about, let's say, 5-10% to like transfer the money. Let's say that debt, let's just say it's 10K debt. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be charges on that too, so it's going to be a little bit above that, but at least you have it transferred. You're not paying interest. It's almost like you're saving yourself like $200 a month. And it's a lot better than, again, just that money disappearing every month and you put it back towards debt. So it's just something you can do.
As of 2 months ago, my husband and I had $43,500 in credit card debt. Yeah, you heard that right. How does that happen? 2 months ago, I cried out to the Lord, asking for wisdom, asking him to help us to pay this off, telling him that I am willing to do what we need to do to get out of this hole that we have dug ourselves into. And he began to give me steps to take to do that. And I kid you not, y'all, over the last 2 months, I have actually seen that number go down. I've been tracking this for the last year, and as of 2 months ago, we had more debt 2 months ago than we did a year ago, and all of our cards have had 0% interest. We've been paying the minimum payments, which is a huge chunk, which means that it should have been going down over the last year, but instead it's gotten higher. And then a couple days ago, I felt this call by the Lord to start posting this debt payoff journey online to inspire hope. Because right now, times are really hard. And I keep hearing left and right that
Yeah, I mean, it's just another good example. It's like, I kind of like that people kind of publicly post about it, being transparent, I know you're maybe embarrassed to post these things, but it helps maybe yourself, if not others as well too, by leading, either by example. Maybe, again, she made like financial decisions, she started paying it off. And again, it's like 2 months ago, she said she had a crazy amount of debt that she was racking up. And again, it happens, sometimes things come up, either personal things or some costs come up or whatever. Maybe you even made bad financial decisions or you went on crazy trips, let's just say. But it's something to just like note that she even realized, like, oh wow, 2 months ago my debt was going up like crazy compared to like 2 years ago. And to get to that, she realized that again, it's like the first step of like realizing you have an issue. Sometimes it's just noticing that you have it. You don't have to really work on it first, but just realizing, hey, I have a spending issue. And it's good that, again, she realized this, she's working on it.
That people aren't even able to afford groceries. People are just drowning in debt. People don't know what to do. And so by sharing my story of what the Lord has been teaching us and what we are doing, I'm hoping that this will inspire hope in your situation, that no matter how bad it looks, if you follow him and you do what it is that he's asking you to do.
Yeah, I mean, just the usual, and just keep paying off your debt, keep moving along. I know it's going to be tough, like as I mentioned in the previous video, let's say you're paying off debt for 2 years and you have it fully planned out. Let's say you're paying off even $2,000 a month, let's say, hopefully. It's going to be a lot of consistency, it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard even mentally to not want to like spend that money, like, oh, my debt's going down, maybe I could just spend a little. Oh, my $48,000 debt is now $20,000, maybe I can spend a little bit, treat myself for getting this far. And we're going to want to, and I'm not going to say you shouldn't or you should. But I think I could see why many people do it as well too, where they want to like get out of it a bit. So maybe they go from $48,000 to $24,000 in a year, and it's like good for them. And then they go back from 24 to like $28,000, so they rack the $4,000 then instead of paying it off. It's not the worst thing, but it's definitely like you definitely should always be paying your debt. But I get why some people also want to reward themselves, and I don't know. I'm not here to give financial advice. I'm kind of just trying to be the in between. I could give you bad financial advice and just say spend it, max out your credit cards, which is bad financial advice. Don't listen to me right now, but I don't know. I could give that angle as well too.
I have a question. How much credit card debt are you in? Because
if you're wondering about my credit card debt, I do have some debt, I'll be honest, and I kind of like that I'm covering this. I guess I'm trying to give you guys like some experience. I have some debt. I'm not gonna say the exact number. I do have some that I've had for a while. I should have just been paying it off a lot quicker. Been kind of making like dumb expenses here and there, or you know, bills come up as well too. And yeah, it's just like I'm aware of my issue. I kind of like watching these videos. That's why I kind of like do these videos as well too. It kind of just helps me like realize like, damn, maybe I'm not so bad of a position, but it's like something I should work on regardless as well too. Maybe I might be the worst one out there. Maybe my debt is way more than any of these videos combined, if possible, and that might be even you out there. But again, it's like, I think these videos kind of like help you out to be like, okay, it's like these people are doing it, I can do it too. Or it's just like, that it's like that person's doing a lot worse, I don't have it as bad, I should definitely work on it. But whatever like angle gives you like hope and trying to pay off this debt is just definitely something to consider.
Context, I'm 26, I've been working since 17, paying for my own shit, moved out at 18, have been independent ever since. And I have $10,000 worth of credit card debt. And I will be the first to admit that I'm not perfect. I've definitely paid off medical bills and like emergency vet visits and things on my credit card, but I've also bought a lot of dumb shit. But it's like people my age have $55,000 worth of credit card debt. Do you see how my eyes twitching? That shit stresses me out. Like 55.
Yeah, 55K, let's just say if you owe that much and you're like 26 years old, even if let's say you're making decent pay, let's say like the first video, like about like 73K a month, per year. Even if you're living at home, let's say your take home pay, or depending on the state, of course, too, it's like you're still bringing in about like 50-ish K a year. It's like you'd have to spend $0 per day. You'd have to eat like completely at home. Somehow your car, I guess, has to be getting paid by your parents. You're taking the, let's say, public transportation, and maybe you can pay off that 50K debt. But it's like realistically, it's like people have debt, they have other payments, they gotta make like necessary payments to just keep living, let's just say, maintaining their life, or if not, lifestyles as well too, whatever that may be. But even if you have 50K that you're making per year, let's say take home, it's like paying off 50K debt is not gonna be 1 year. You hope it would. Many people think it would be, but just it's not always how it works out. And yeah, it's just something to consider as well too. It's like sometimes you gotta like put some cushion in terms of like how much you can actually pay off per month as well too.
$5,000 is my take-home salary from my last job. Like, I think I'm just morbidly curious on like.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna end it here. So yeah, so her take home's about like 55K. She does owe about 10K. So that's about like a fifth of this year. Let's just say she's gonna have like a leftover 45K for spending. And again, as she said, she moved out. She lives on her own. She probably has like her own payments for her car renting, and it's a little tougher as well, of course, too, when you move out. When you're at home, you can kind of, for good and for bad, you can kind of ask your parents, like, hey, loan me like a couple $100 if your parents can't help you. Not that they have to, but just like, it's a little easier when you're back at home, a little easier to ask. I'm not saying utilize your parents or your siblings or anything like that, but you have like more of a cushion, of course, I feel like when you're at home, where you obviously have like more resources compared to like when you're moved out. If you're a little bit more independent, like you got to figure out all these things on your own, and you start using, of course, your credit card more as well too.
My name's Megan. I am turning 30 in 2 days, and I'm just shy of $40,000 in credit card debt. I've seen a lot of people post on here about kind of.
Yeah, if you saw her sad face, I would feel that if you're like 30 and you owe 40K debt, regardless of the number, even if you owe 20K, 50K, 100K debt, it's just like, you wish you were out of that hole. You wish you could like move on past your life. It's like, I wish I was like at zero for her, let's just say. And again, you might, even at that point, she might still have student debt or other debts, but it's just like, you hope each debt's always paid off as soon as you think about it. And again, it could be like the first video where it gives you like an ice pick headache as well too.
Kind of like their debt-free journey. A lot of people that I've seen that are going on their debt-free journey kind of have, I guess, different life circumstances than what I had. A little bit of background. Like I said, I'm turning 30 in 2 days. I'm a teacher. I live just outside of the DC area, so it's pretty high cost. I rent my own 1-bedroom place. I'm not married. And a lot of people that I've seen that kind of go on this journey have like their spouse for support, or they're able to move back home with their family, or family financial support. All of those are just not luxuries that I have. Here, asking for advice, seeking help. 2 things I really don't want to have to do is file for bankruptcy. For my mental health, a second job is something I would just kind of like to stay away from. 2025, my 30th year, it's the year that I kind of figured out. And like I said, I'm just kind of looking for some advice, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, at 30, she's like hoping to pay off her debt, and just like, I get it. It's like, exactly as I mentioned, it's like she would hope she could, sometimes you have like a little bit more of a luxury or as a cushion of when you're back with your parents, or, you're living with, let's say, your significant other, you can kind of like help each other out where you can, or whatever, maybe one of you falls behind in terms of finances or whatever. It's like when you have obviously 2 incomes, it's like you feel a lot more secure. It's like, let's just say, for worst cases, if you have 2 people working, one person losing their job, at least you have another person possibly making half of that money, which hopefully is enough to make payments for, let's say, rent and utilities and everything, food as well too. Maybe less, but it's like when you are on your own, living by yourself, and maybe away from family, sure, you could contact your family for help. It's just like, it probably gives you a much more independent feel. It's like, I gotta figure these things out. These are my issues. I shouldn't be like putting this burden on my parents. So it's just like, you can see it like in her face. You can see it like in her facial expressions towards the end, and just like, yeah, it's definitely putting a lot of stress on her, a lot of pressure, and she wishes she could pay it off. And bankruptcy is an option. I don't know much about that, but it's definitely a way to go about it. Your credit score will be completely trashed, I guess, just at least to say. But it's an option too. I'm not saying that's what she should do. Again, being a teacher sometimes doesn't pay the best in the US. maybe she has to do something on the side, which again, even being a teacher already is a full-time job, and you're also grading your students' tests, maybe sometimes even on your personal time at home. And yeah, being a teacher is really tough. Yeah, so I hope she figures it out. It's like kind of like a little bit of relief. So it's like $1,200, about $1,300 in debt, and she paid she paid that off, and it's just like, it's satisfying. It's like once you hit zero, it's like, yes, it's like I'm finally out. It's like, assuming you don't fall into a cycle, this is getting into more debt. It's a really good thing to get out of. Again, it's really a thing that maybe people want to talk about again. She's even posting about it, this quick 16-second video that she posted. It's just like, it gives people like hope, like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that by this year. I want to do this by this June, or before I take that trip, I want to get my debt to zero. And yeah, it's motivating. So it's like, I'm glad people post these, and I kind of want to show like the good side and the bad side, just like all the people in debt. But there's also people who are able to pay off their debt as well too. And it's like, don't feel like you're alone out there. I don't know, I'm trying to be a little motivational. It's like, don't feel like you're alone. There's a lot of people possibly in the exact same situation as you in terms of debt. So, you know, look up online, whatever it might be, Reddit or whatever it is, other forums, and get advice. Talk to your friends about like how they pay off their debt, and maybe get ideas of how to work on it better.
So, my husband and I are $60,000 in debt. Okay.
Part of the problem. You are.
Let me explain how we got here. In June of 2022, we had a good amount of savings and decided that our home that we've been living in for a couple years just needed some maintenance and some upgrade. You can see behind me, we live in like a very normal house, but there were some things like on the outside where our stucco was falling off, so we needed to have that repaired. We had our house painted, we upgraded our bathroom a little bit, and also decided to pay off my husband's private student loan because the interest is not great. And so
yeah, I want to pause. There's a lot to it. So it's just like 65K debt between two people. Again, kind of really similar as we saw the previous videos. It's about like 32,500 in debt for each of them, being her and her husband. It's a lot to pay off, even if, like, again, if you guys start tackling, let's just say her own debt, let's say the 33, let's just round it. Even if she paid $1K a month, that still didn't take a little under 3 years of being consistent and not racking up any new debt, which isn't being, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's very like sad to think about, like, to think like that for 3 years. It's like, I gotta be really consistent, and it's like, I have to pay off all this debt, and it's like, can I really do it? And you lose motivation sometimes, but it's like, you kind of just have to keep pushing forward in terms of like paying off the debt, because it's going to keep following you your whole life, unless of course you go for bankruptcy. Not that I recommend it, but it's just going to be like, or if, I don't know, some magic money pops up, or someone just turns up in front of your door and leaves you a bag of money. But overall, as I'm trying to say, it's like, I get it. It's like people feel like very stressed, again, for themselves. It's not that it's anyone else's fault. It's their own fault for racking up the debt, regardless if it's like personal things that come up, and it's just like, your debt is your debt. And it's like, it's not fun, but it's like, it's something you got to deal with.
I'm not surprised I have one of the highest balance credit cards I've ever seen in my life.
It makes sense when we get into it.
Make it make sense.
Bought a house. I mean, I moved here less than a year ago.
But you said because of buying a house is the reason why we'd be in that much credit card debt, meaning we couldn't afford to buy the house.
So the movers lost my stuff when I got here.
So did you...
So I want to quickly pause. We haven't got to any of the numbers yet. We're just going, all we know is there's debt. I will say, I want to just commend Caleb Hammer. It's kind of really funny financially, his energy and everything. Maybe being a little bit extreme. Maybe I should do the same, put on the glasses, have the curly hair already, do the exact same if you guys want me to do that. But again, I kind of like his videos. It covers it very well with some humor, but it's funny to me.
Did you lose everything?
The couch. I lost the couch. The table was broken.
Okay, tell me what you actually lost then. The couch and the table.
Couch, table, a couple of like dressers were broken for like the kids.
Couple dressers?
Mm-hmm. Bent metal dressers.
What else did we lose?
I think those are the major things.
Okay, then this is where I would end up, because you told me you lost everything.
I didn't say I lost everything. I said they lost my stuff. The movers lost my stuff when I got here.
Oh, my stuff. My stuff. If I said my movers lost my stuff, I would think.
So it doesn't seem like we're going to see any numbers, but again, I want to just throw him in there, kind of just end on a more positive note. regardless of your debt, you should always pay it off. It seems like she probably has to pay off all her furniture that she had to replace. Maybe she didn't have insurance, or the movers didn't have insurance. Again, it's like just random debt that will come up, and that's what a lot of people use their credit card for, in terms of like maybe they don't have the cash to pay it off right away. They're like, oh, let me just use my credit card. It's just I gotta pay off a couple things, and again, you do that now, and it's like a couple months later, it's like something happens, your car breaks down, you gotta replace your alternator that gave out. That's a couple other hundred, and it's just like you hope over time you're paying it off as well too. But it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of issues. It's like this could go to a lot of other like tangents. Of course, it's like, do people need more pay? Are people making enough money? It's like, if people obviously had enough money, I don't think most people would be in debt, to be honest. But maybe some people would. Even if you gave someone, let's just say 3 million a year, they're probably gonna spend it possibly. But you still obviously have to have good financial just like decisions as well too. But I think most people obviously don't want to be in debt. If their job gave them a promotion, let's just say 10K, I would hope most people would use that 10K, obviously not take home, but that 10K that they possibly can use it on their their personal loans, credit card loans, student loans. I think a lot of people want to get out of their debt. Again, sometimes people are okay with just living the lifestyle they have, which is what you kind of should do. As you maintain your lifestyle, when you get promoted, don't start spending more money. Don't start buying 2 Starbucks a day instead of 1. But it's definitely something to do. It's just like, I don't know, it's like try to get promoted, try to make more money. Don't file for bankruptcy. It's an option, but don't do it. I don't know, have some family members help you out. If you have like a little bit of debt, maybe it's like, let's say it's not everyone's situation, but let's say you owe a couple hundred or a few thousand, and someone in your family can easily help you. I'm not saying they should help you, not that they owe it to you or anything, but if they're more than willing to help you, they're going to give you obviously no interest loan for, let's say, a couple months or a year while you pay it off. It's like, it's way better than paying whatever that 18 to like 30% interest on the credit card. So it's a lot better. And again, another thing I want to mention too is like you could transfer your credit card loan to another credit card. You could look it up again. There's a lot of credit cards, not a lot, but there's a decent amount of credit cards where you can have 0% APR for about 6 months, 24 months. Use that, pay it off hopefully by the end of those 24 months, and it's like, at least you save up all that money that would have went to whatever, paying off the debt. So just some things. And again, if you guys like the video, watch this other video. I'm going to keep posting these. Hope you guys like this. Hopefully the lighting's a little better. I just switched sides. I don't know if you guys like this a little more. And again, until next time.